If I had to start from zero in 2026, knowing everything I know about real estate right now, I would not do what most people are teaching. No flipping 50 houses, no saving for years. I would do what I know would certainly work. Because I believe in 2026, the people who win in real estate aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones who understand structure, leverage, and control. I've been in real estate for over 20 years. I've bought, I've sold, I've developed, I've entitled, and I've structured deals across multiple markets and cycles. If I had to do it again today, I'd follow a very specific roadmap and I wouldn't deviate one bit. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I would start from scratch in 2026, step by step, so you can avoid the years of mistakes and start building real momentum fast. Here's the truth most people miss: real estate isn't about owning houses, it's about controlling assets and getting paid for that control. And once you understand that, you realize you don't need perfect credit, massive amounts of cash, or some secret market crash to get started. I'd focus on three things only: finding deals with extra land that can be divided off, structuring it creatively so that I win and the people who are with me win, and stack cash so that I can go out and buy more assets. I do all of this before I ever worry about appreciation or income. So if you're starting from zero or you've been spinning your wheels, this is the exact approach I'd use if I were you. Step one, find deals with extra land. I call this the real game. In step one, almost everyone gets it wrong. Most beginners are trained to look for houses they can fix up, things they can add value to, but very few are looking for houses on land or land with a house on it. If I were starting over in 2026, I'd be hunting for land that happens to have a house on it. I don't buy houses, I buy land with options, weird shapes, anything where the dirt is doing nothing. Here's why this matters: you don't make real money in real estate by renovating kitchens, you make it by creating new assets. Let me make this simple. If you buy a house for $500,000 and you can legally split the lot and create one extra buildable lot worth $150,000, you didn't get lucky. You forced appreciation, $150,000 in value. Notice what I didn't say. I didn't say go out and find a house to flip. I didn't say time the market. And I didn't say hope appreciation saves you. You're doing one thing: turning one asset into two. And that's what we call the BOGO method. The market pays you every time for that. If I were starting from zero, here's what I'd look for immediately: lots bigger than surrounding homes, corner lots, properties near the edge of a subdivision, older homes with huge backyards, mostly built in the 1970s and early 80s. Areas where zoning already allows smaller lots. The best part: most homeowners, most sellers don't even realize they're sitting on two assets. You don't need to be a builder. You don't need to be an engineer. You just need to know what to look for and what questions to ask. And we'll get to that next. Because once you find land like this, the next step is learning how to structure the deal so you don't need a pile of cash or bank approval. That's step two. And now we're on to step two. And this is a very crucial step when you're starting to divide land. And what we're looking for is we're looking for the zoning. And the zoning is going to tell us if this property can be subdivided. The first thing I'm going to do is find the zoning on the zoning map. Each municipality and county has what's referred to as a city map that is different colors and it has different designations for every property. If you look up the property on the city or GIS map, they will have a zoning section there, and that will show you in different colors with different designations the zone for the property that you're looking at. And you're going to see labels like R1, R2, R5, R7, RS, RM, AR in urban areas. And the pro tip here is that if it's residential and inside city limits, it's definitely worth checking. And if you're in the county, you want to make sure that you're looking for larger parcels, meaning over 2 acres and above. So step two, once we know and have looked at the zoning map, so we know the zoning designation for that property, we're going to look up the zone code that is referenced in the zone map. So let's say we look up on the map and it's yellow, and yellow is R1. So we know that the zone code is R1, is we're going to look in the city or county municipal code for these zoning designations. Because our property's R1, we're going to look up R1. So I'm going to make sure that this property meets all the requirements in the R1 zone and allows the property to be divided into smaller parcels. One of the things I'm going to check, and I always check this right off the bat, because if it's not correct, you might as well move on, and that's the minimum lot size. This is the single most important number. For example, if my property is 12,000 square feet and in this R1 zone, it requires 5,000 square feet per lot, guess what? We got a deal. We know this can be divided. But if it's an R1 and the R1 designation says 15,000 square foot per lot, and where you have a 12,000 square foot lot, we know we cannot divide this any further. So we might as well not even move on. Knowing that is super important. The next thing I'm going to do is verify access. I want to know how much street frontage my second lot has to have, if any. Maybe I can do a flag lot, maybe I can't. But I need to know what the street frontage is and what the access has to look like, because it's going to tell me how I can divide this lot, or even if I can divide this lot, or if I can use a side yard or an alley for an access. One of the things I love about this is the corner lots. We have two access points on street A and street B. Corner lots can equal zoning gold. The next thing I'm going to do is look for constraints. Just because a property has a red flag doesn't necessarily mean it's a deal killer. It just means I need to dig deeper and find out what that means. I'm going to see what kind of easements it has. Is this property in the floodplain, or is part of the property in the floodplain? Is it on a steep slope hazard? Is the slopes too steep to where we can't build? Or do we have to stabilize the bank? Are there wetlands? Things like that. Setbacks. The key mindset here is that constraints reduce value. They don't eliminate the opportunity. So when you're negotiating with someone, if there's a steep slope, you're probably going to renegotiate that price anyway. So it just gives you another option. So I'm looking for those things when it comes to zoning. One last thing that I always do is visit the city or the county planner, and I'm going to ask the most important question. Can this parcel be legally divided under its current zoning? And that's it. You don't need to be a consultant to ask that question. All you need to be is an informed buyer. This is the part that scares people the most, and it really shouldn't. So if I were starting over in 2026, I would assume I don't have the cash, because cash is not the real leverage in real estate. Structuring the deal is the real leverage in real estate. So here's what most beginners miss. There are many ways to structure deals so that the sellers get what they want and need. They want certainty, simplicity, and relief. So here's my core strategy. Instead of asking, how do I get a loan? I start asking the seller questions. The whole time I'm asking these questions, I'm thinking, how do I solve this seller's problem and get control of the property? What do they need? Some need it paid off fast because they can't afford the payments anymore. Sometimes they just want you to make the payments so that they can get it off their credit and keep going. For some people, they've inherited this house, and this is what I like to call the extra home. So they're really sensitive to the price they're getting. If you give them a higher price, maybe you can get some better terms. A lot of people need to move time because sometimes they're moving out of this house and they need the proceeds from this house to buy their next house. So there's a timing issue. So you see, you have to ask what I call the extra question. And then you have to keep asking the question until you get the real motivation so that you could tailor your offer and your pitch to solve their problems or to solve what they need. Structure one is seller financing. I always ask the seller if they would do some seller financing. And in my opinion, this is probably the easiest ask to make. What does seller financing mean? That means that the seller acts as the bank. There's no loan approval because they're going to sell it to us and carry what's called the paper. There's several ways to do that. You can do a wrap so they can keep their current loan. Maybe they own it free and clear. They're going to ask you for a down payment, so you're going to need some cash for that. But what it does is it makes it so that you don't have to get approved for a bank loan, no strict timelines. And a lot of times it's less money out of pocket. And if that doesn't work for them, I'll also ask them if they're interested in doing a lease option. And in some cases for these sellers, a lease option makes a lot of sense. I will always do a short-term lease option, meaning I'll do 12 months to 24 months. And this gives me the time to get the deal set up and complete before I have to pay for it. Think of it like this. The lease option with a seller is on lease optioning, meaning I'm going to pay them X dollars for their property at some point in time in the future. And I'm giving them some money to buy that option from them. But it allows me to put a strike price on the property so I know what I'm paying and so that I can get the things in order that I need to divide off this land. In the short term, I create a lot of value and I know that I've already created the value before I've purchased the property. My next option is to find the money. I'm asking myself a different set of questions. Who has the money? Who wants to do a deal like this? And where do I find them? In the past, I've had a lot of success finding them by calling and talking with the escrow agents, especially the escrow agent who I'm going to put this property with. And that conversation usually goes something like this. Hi, escrow agent. My name is Joe. I'm a real estate developer and investor. My deal is in escrow with you, or I'm about to put a deal in escrow with you. And this is an investment deal. Who do you know that does equity deals like this? And I'll say, hey, I'm looking for 3 to 5 people I can call. Who do you know that would be interested in something like this? I usually keep asking that same question until I get 5 names. If they can only come up with 1 or 2, I ask them to ask the other escrow agents in their office if they have anyone else that would be interested in this. I also ask them who's doing hard money deals in this area and what's their structure. I usually get a contact for them because I'm going to call them eventually when I'm ready to ask them if they'll lend the money. Now that I know where to start with the equity capital and the hard money, I start to build my package. What I'm doing is putting together all the information needed for an equity investor and a hard money lender to make a decision. That doesn't mean I'm painting this project in such an amazing light that it's the best deal in the world and they would never lose money. Everyone knows it's very unrealistic. But what I do know is that when I build the right packet with the right assumption, the money comes fast. So the pro tip here is don't only talk about the pros of the deal, include the cons, and make sure that you can back it up with facts. A lot of people say things like, oh, this is the greatest house ever. Okay, tell me why it's the greatest house ever. Oh, this is the best neighborhood ever. Why is it the best neighborhood ever? Is it because it has amazing school district and you can walk to school? Is it because there is no freeway for 5 miles from here? Is it because it has wooded area or protected area around you that you can use as a... Why is this the best area? And offer facts that benefit and show why it is. This shows the equity investor or the hard money lender that you have to deal through and you realize that things can happen because in deals they always do and you're prepared for them. So once I've reviewed the packet, I've put together how we're going to do it, how much money we're going to need, what the timeline is, and I've backed it all up with data and facts that they can verify from a third party, and I know it's 100% complete. Only then will I call the equity investors and talk to them. And only then will I talk to hard money lenders. The reason why I do that is because once I put that together, I know all the things. They're all up here. And the other reason is because once I get off the phone to them and I say, hi, equity investor, I will send them the packet immediately. I don't send it an hour from now. I don't send it 10 minutes from now. I send it 1 minute from now, and it's 100% complete. When you do that, you look like you are the professional and you know what you're doing. I can guarantee that 90% of the packets that they've ever gotten have never shown up that way. And that sets you apart. In the beginning, asking people for money really scared me. I almost always took it personal when they weren't interested. So I want to give a little pro tip here. If the deal is good and backed up by good data, investors and money will follow. If the packet is incomplete and has pie in the sky projection and is not backed up by facts, your money's going to look at it, but they're going to move on. That's a really big part. So now the last part of this structure, I've asked them to carry, I've asked them for an option, and now I have gone and I've talked to my escrow agents and I'm looking for people with equity money and who lend hard money. And if I'm not hitting on any of those, I may go to part 3, structure 3, or to this immediately anyway, depending on how much cash I have. I really like to use this option when cash is tight. What I'm going to do is build the packet and turn around and sell this deal. I'm going to sell this deal to another investor. I'm going to sell my position in the contract where they take over my position, and I'm going to make some money in the middle. What I do is I call this a wholesale deal. If cash is really tight, We wholesale the deal and make some money moving on to the next deal. To explain this simply, I add to the purchase and sale agreement, and I do this on every single one that I sign up or that I buy. What I say on there is my LLC that I'm buying in, and I add the words and or assigns. I will never sign a purchase and sale agreement unless it has the entity plus and or assigns, because that allows me to assign my rights in this contract, add a partner, do anything, and I don't have to go back and get the seller's permission. So I can turn around and sell this deal. And let's say we're going to make $150,000 on this land division by selling the extra lots and everything else. Maybe I'm going to sell it to them for $30,000. So they're going to make $120,000 and I'm going to get $30,000 when they close on this. So wholesaling the property, if I'm out of money and I absolutely have no access to cash, is by far the fastest, easiest, and best way to put some money in my pocket fast. It allows me to sell my position in the deal and make some money without having to buy the deal. Yet this is the fastest and easiest option when you're starting over and have no cash or access to cash. It allows you to put real cash in your pocket quickly without having the cash to do the deal or having cash in the deal. I teach all three of these methods in the BOGO method when I teach people how to buy property or buy property with a house on it and divide off the extra property. I've done all of these three things with options, wholesaling, or finding equity investors because I'm able to control the property without having any cash in the deal. I control the property without the ownership. I also control the property without the risk until I buy it. Now, notice what I'm doing at every step. I'm limiting my downside before I commit the money. When you don't have a lot of money or any money, that's the only way to go. If I had to start over in real estate in 2026 with little to no cash, this is the exact 3-step framework I would use. Step 1, I don't chase houses. I hunt deals with extra land. So I'm buying land with a house on them. Property where the dirt is doing nothing and I can create value by turning one asset into two. I call it the BOGO method. Step 2, I don't guess. I verify the zoning. I look at all the details. I look it up myself. I confirm the minimum lot size. I'm looking for anything that will kill this deal. I'm looking at size, access, constraints, because zoning is what turns an idea into a real opportunity. When we have the zoning correct, we know that we have a deal. I don't try to bend the rules. I'm very upfront and very straightforward. And I always confirm that the split is legal. In step 3, only after I know that the deal works, I structure it so that I don't need a pile of cash. I'm looking for seller financing, option to buy, equity investor, hard money investor. I'm looking to wholesale this deal and make a little bit of money and keep moving on. The key is making sure that we control the asset and giving ourselves enough time. I like 10 business days so that we can structure the deal and make sure we're going to get what we want. That's how you let the deal do itself without any cash up front. You have to structure the deal before you buy it. And here is probably the biggest takeaway. This isn't about being lucky. It's not about timing the market. And it's definitely not about having rich parents or perfect credit. It's about thinking like an operator, thinking like a developer instead of a consumer. I've watched people spin their wheels for years, flipping houses, chasing appreciation, or waiting for the perfect deal, while others quietly build wealth by understanding land, zoning, and deal structure. If you're serious about real estate, not just about watching videos, but actually doing deals, this framework works in any market and in any market cycle. How would I know? Because I've done it. Land doesn't lie. Zoning doesn't care about interest rates, and good structure solves almost every problem. So, if you're starting in 2026 with little to no cash, don't try to do everything. Just do these 3 things that I've explained in this video and let everyone else do the other work. Find the right land, confirm the split, and structure the deal. I teach this in what I call the BOGO method, and it's something that I have done over and over. So if I had to start over in 2026, that's how money gets made in almost all real estate deals. In the next video, I'll show you how to talk to planning departments without sounding like a beginner, and how to avoid the biggest zoning mistake I see people make.